Today, I survived 500 days in hardcore Minecraft. And yeah, I know what you're thinking, 500 days is a lot, right? Well, I mean, to me, it feels like I've only just begun in this world. And speaking of the beginning, if you're new to this hardcore series, since it's not like I have a lot of others or anything, then you should totally go back and watch the first 400 days. I have accomplished a metric ton of things in this world that you should totally go see. Plus, this is my longest standing hardcore world on the channel so far, so you should totally go check out the link in the description down below for the playlist of the first 400 days. Plus, if you do go on to enjoy this video, it would mean the absolute world to me if you subscribed, because I have the crazy goal of hitting 1 million subscribers by the end of 2021, and we are already almost at 200,000, which is insane. And one last thing, don't forget to leave a like to let me know that you want to see more. Also, leave a dank comment down below letting me know what else you want to see on the channel, because I have so many ideas and I'm always open to see any suggestions. Anyways, let's get right into day 401. On day 401, I was a ready boy. I had a list of things to do for these 100 days and places to be, because if you haven't noticed, it's been a while since we've been inside of this world. One huge thing that I didn't finish in the last 100 days that I really wanted to finish was transforming my Farmers Association into a capitalistic machine. But I needed a lot more gold and apples to do that, so my first huge project would be to build myself a gold farm on the nether roof. But first, I needed some things. I was gonna need magma blocks and some turtle eggs. So I grabbed some bone meal and bones, not like I was low on them or anything, and I flew over to my nearby turtle friend that I trapped like 300 days ago, and I began by harvesting a bunch of seagrass with the shears. Also, quick little fact, I didn't even know you needed shears until now. I may or may not have tried to use silk touch on this. Anyways, after this, I realized something was off. I only had one sea turtle here, and I needed 2 of them to Detroit smash and make some eggs. So I had to continue searching for a place with 2 turtles, and not that far away, I actually found a bunch of them right before it became nighttime. I lured these boys together, and I set them up on a nice date while I got out my bed and went to sleep for the night. On day 402, the second turtle tried to break up with his new lover, but I tracked him down and I drug him back to the future site of TurtleCon 2021. After this, I spent the next day and a half clearing out the sand and dirt and building them a walled-in area, plus adding some torches, and I even gave them this nice tropical pond in the center. My turtles gotta live in style. While waiting for these boys to lay more eggs, I was googling some stuff about turtles, and they apparently take 4 to 5 nights to hatch. So I was like, no. So I picked up some of their eggs with silk touch, and I just brought them back home. The new plan was to make a turtle enclosure by my house, so that way they'll always be inside of loaded chunks, and I can become the best turtle farmer that I was born to be. So I collected all my things and I flew home for the night. I spent day 404 struggling to find a place for my turtle habitat. You could say my building plans were not found. Come on, that was a good joke. Please somebody get that joke. Anyways, I finally thought of where I want the turtles to go, and I began swapping out the dirt for some sand, and while doing this, a trident boy kept sniping me from the ocean. So I jumped in and smacked him up some, and this boy dropped me a trident and a piece of gold. I feel like this is going to be a pretty lucky 100 days. On days 405 through 406, I kept gathering spruce wood and I began building the wall for my turtle enclosure. I also tried to build my first palm tree, except I ran out of jungle leaves and my last sapling turned into a greedy tree that didn't want to drop any more saplings. So I couldn't make a second tree, and just like my ocean world, I was now out of jungle wood. After this, I fenced in the water part of the beach and I placed all of my turtle eggs, and now I just had to wait 4 to 5 days for these to hatch. Not gonna lie, I didn't expect getting turtle eggs to take this long. On day 407, I had a weird feeling that the baby turtles would escape through the fences, so I googled it, and apparently baby turtles can swim through fences. So I replaced all of the ocean fence with a wall similar to the rest, and after this, I replaced all the torches with some tiki torches to kind of match the tropical aesthetic that I was going for. Now, all I needed was more jungle leaves, and the eggs are also starting to crack. The babies cometh soon. I spent the next 3 days working on making the path around my base way more natural and creative. I made some custom trees, and I really stepped up my block diversity game by using gravel, coarse dirt, and podzol. I also learned that apparently if you bone meal some grass and flowers onto the ground, and then you bone meal a birch sapling inside of them, then the birch tree has a chance of spawning with a bee's nest on it. By the end of these few days, my turtles started to hatch, and just look at these cute, adorable little dudes. All hail the tiny turtle overlords. On day 411, I began working on my farmer villagers that I started like a month ago. And I killed their zombies off because a bunch of people in the comments suggested that I tried locking them into farmers first. So I tested out maxing them out and then curing them in a creative world, and it only took 3 cures. So it turns out I might have been curing villagers the hard way this entire time. Right after this, it was time for some long-awaited capitalism. I traded strings, sticks, and feathers with all of my Fletcher army, and I mended all of my tools and my elytra in the process. All of this capitalism netted me a profit of 41 emerald blocks. Omega Pog. Now that my money-stuffed pockets were more stuffed, I went to check on my turtles, and some of the babies were missing, and there were 2 adults that somehow escaped. And then I found it. One of the walls that I built was 1 block too short, so these mans were escaping. So I pushed this dude back in and I increased the wall size. Now that my escape artist turtles were imprisoned, I spent the night placing sea lanterns underwater around my base to really make the ocean pop. Plus, it also stops drown from spawning. On day 412, I gathered some carrots and maxed out one of my cured zombie villagers. While doing this, I also solved my lack of apples. I guess all of those trees I killed died for nothing. But sometimes it just be that way though. I maxed out my second villager and got a ton more apples and golden carrots from him. Plus, while leveling them, I heard the classic "Arr," and I can't do the llama noise. I'm not even going to attempt it. But yeah, you get the picture. It was a wandering trader. So I went upstairs and they didn't have that much, so I deleted them from existence. Silly trader, this isn't the ocean only world. I don't need you. After this, I grabbed 8 stacks of gold from my gold chest and I crafted 64 golden apples, and damn does it feel good to finally have golden apples. The great apple struggle is almost over. Later that night, I led 2 zombies onto the platform so I could reinfect these 2 farmers a couple of times, and then I can turn the rest of these zombies into more farmers. On day 413, I cured my 2 maxed farmers for the first time, and then I cured every one of those other zombie villagers, and I killed all of their zombies so I could individually level each of them up as a farmer before I continued to infect them. After this, I went to go feed my pet ninja turtles, and just look at all these mans just chilling in the corner, probably plotting my downfall. I spent the rest of the day leveling up all of my farmers, and I cured my 2 home slices for a 3rd time, and when they cured, their trades were down to 1 emerald each. So I guess I found the more efficient way to rob villagers. On day 414, I AFK'd around my base while my turtles continued to grow until nighttime, when I brought my 2 finished farmers inside and I lured them into their prisons by using beds. And of course, they would not cooperate in the slightest, because villagers are the worst, plain and simple. But I did manage to get them both into their beds, and after this, I spent the whole night luring zombies to infect the rest of my Farmers Association, and this process took all the way until sunrise. On day 415, I began the day by curing all of my 2nd round of farmers for the first time. After that, I commenced in some more beautiful capitalism. Just look at the sheer quality of these stunks. Somebody please call the spiffing Brett, he needs to see this. All of this capitalism got me a whopping 65 more emerald blocks. And by the time I was done trading, all of my farmers were infected again, so it was round 2 of their vaccine. I mean cures. And after this, I traded with my god tier farmers for some more juicy apples and spicy golden carrots. Be gone, inefficient chicken. I only consume gold. I spent the rest of the day casually organizing my inventory and checking on farms, and damn, just look at the creeper and spider farm go. Also, look at my iron farm. That's somehow less efficient than the one in my ocean only world. Either way, I can't complain because it's producing me mad stonks. On day 416, I started off the day by curing my zombie villagers for the 3rd time. I then spent a lot of this day just kind of AFKing by the villagers because I wasn't sure if they would all be ready to go after they cured, and I was pretty much right. Some villagers were ready with 1 emerald trades, but some of them still had trades for 4, so I killed some of the zombies and I reinfected the others. Only one of the villagers was ready, so I brought him inside and I gave him a bed. That way when it becomes nighttime, he'll go into his little hole. I continued AFKing, and as each of the remaining villagers cured, I checked their trades and I killed their zombies. Throughout the night, I moved each and every farmer into their new home, and I now have 7 fully decked out farmers who will be my infinite source of golden carrots. Only problem is I now needed 2 more farmers, and then I could move on to my cartographers so I could start hunting down some woodland mansions. Now that my villagers were finally fixed, I went back to check on my booming turtle population, and look at these boys go! Turtle Empire is almost complete. On day 417, I prepared myself for something that I have been wanting to do forever now. I wanted to go back to the end and loot the end cities and grow my wealth by stuffing my inventory with countless diamond tools, armor sets, and I also needed some more shulkers. Plus, I would kind of like some backup elytras. I mean, just in case, you know? So I got my bottles of enchanting for repairs, and I traded for another mending and unbreaking 3 book so I could enchant a backup elytra on the spot. After this, I went into the nether and I jumped through the end portal and I ender pearled through the outer lands portal. Not that far from my spawn, there was an end city that I apparently just never found. I mean, I don't know. I remember this being an awful experience, so it's kind of great to know that I could have just walked like 10 feet, and yeah, I don't want to talk about it. While looting my way through this place, I found 3 different chest rooms, and the loot was absolutely busted. I found a bunch of OP diamond items, 10 diamonds, and I am already up to 20 shulker shells. I was in the end looting all the way until day 430, and I found so much dank loot that I figured you'd enjoy a good old-fashioned killing and looting montage. After my long looting journey, I returned home and put all of my loot into one chest to see what I really got, and wow. I didn't even loot for that long, and I ended up with 35 diamonds, 4 elytras, 4 dragon heads, and tons of diamond tools and armor that all had OP enchants. I also came back with 41 shulker boxes, and not gonna lie, I kind of started skipping a lot of the shulkers towards the end because my water glitched out and disappeared, and I didn't really want to deal with them. After getting home from the end on day 431, I took 18 shulkers and made them purple and yellow for the channel color aesthetic, and the next day I took off on a journey to find a desert and an ice biome so I could begin my new projects, which are going to be a juicy nether hub complete with some beautiful ice boat travel to get to my wither farm. Before leaving, I enchanted a second elytra just in case, and I named it Sky High because I couldn't really think of a better name, and for some reason the Disney movie Sky High kinda just came to mind. My mind is an enigma. Now that I was properly prepared, I took off over the ocean in search of a desert, and surprisingly only 5 minutes of flying, there was one on the other side of the ocean. And this was here the entire time, so I didn't have to go and randomly find crappy deposits of sand to... I don't want to talk about it, okay? While inside the desert, I also found a desert temple, and there was a clean 2 diamonds inside one of the chests. While here, I also realized that I brought way too many shulkers for this, but I mean, it is what it is. Anyways, cue sand montage. This was the most successful sand montage to date because I ended up with 5 shulkers full of sand, and this took all the way until the end of day 433. On day 434, I flew back out in a different direction, and after about 8 minutes of flying, I found an ice biome. It really looks like my luck is going to be great during these 100 days. I spent the next 4 days mining the ice and sleeping through the night so I didn't have to deal with mobs, and I even had to repair my pickaxe with the backup bottles of enchantments that I had brought just for the occasion. Now that I have big projects like this, it looks like I'm finally going to have to put all of those backup diamond tools to use. After this, I flew back home and I ended up with 5 shulkers full of packed ice plus some extra. Later that night, I checked on my turtle farm and these boys popped off. Look at them all. They're beautiful, my children. On day 439, I grabbed some potions of fire res and dove into the water to collect the last ingredient to bake the perfect gold farm, magma blocks. I found a couple of easy veins and even got some free gold that I guess no longer matters. I ended up with more than 12 stacks of spicy blocks, so I went back to the overworld to begin laying out what I needed for the farm. While gathering supplies, I realized that I was going to need 2 to 3 times more magma blocks than I had originally thought, and I also did not have that much magma cream, and it wasn't really worth wasting it, so I brewed some more potions of spicy water resistance, and I went to sleep for the day. So that way in the morning, I could repair my pickaxe with some beautiful capitalism. Does my pickaxe being so close to breaking stress you out? Good. I began day 440 with what you've all been waiting for, some more beautiful capitalism. I traded sticks, string, and feathers with all of my boys, and I guess me infecting them wrong is finally kicking in because their trades are slowly going back up, and that is not okay. I traded with these mans 4 times in a row, and by the time I was all done, all of my tools were shiny and new, and I had enough emeralds to make 85 blocks of emerald. Not to flex or anything, but just look at this chest. Now that my pick was fixed, it was back to the nether to collect some more magma. I got kind of lucky and I struck magma gold underneath the first bastion that I actually looted during the first 100 days. After coming back from the nether, I paid a visit to the turtles by turning some of their eggs into orphans because I stole them. Now that I had the magma and turtle eggs that I would need, I dumped them into the shulkers and I almost had a full shulker of magma, which ironically just happens to be a little more than what I was going to need. I spent the rest of the night putting the supplies for the farm into the shulkers so I would have everything that I needed while on the nether roof. I have a shulker full of magma, one full of glass, and one full of everything else I would need minus more warped trapdoors, cactus, and honey blocks, which means I now needed to make my long planned bee movie farm. Prepare yourself for the bee puns. On day 441, I grabbed my sky high elytra and I took off towards my desert so I could get the cactus I needed for the gold sword destroying part of the gold farm's auto sorter. After landing and breaking the cactus I needed, I had this crazy idea to steal this entire pool of lava. So I opened up my beacon box and I used the iron blocks to make a ton of buckets. I filled each and every one of these buckets with lava from the pool until it was almost gone, and I ended up with 2 full shulkers and an additional 9 buckets of lava. That is 63 buckets of lava. So now that I had an unnecessary amount of lava and I had my cactus, it was time to head home. That is until I got distracted by a nearby desert temple. I heard a skeleton inside, and of course there was a creeper hanging out waiting and watching. I looted the 4 chests and they had 1 golden apple and a bunch of junk. No god apple for me, I guess. After this, I spent the night flying home as fast as my cat when he has zoomies. Here's a picture of him, by the way. Isn't he such a beautiful and handsome boy? If you follow me on Twitter, I totally post more pictures of him. And you should totally mention in the comments down below just how cute he is, because his ego needs to be raised. On day 442, before going into the nether for warped wood, I realized my axe only had efficiency 4 still. Ew. So I went over to my librarians to buy an efficiency 5 book. After that, I popped it onto Orphan Obliterator so he can obliterate orphans at twice the speed and chop trees too, I guess. So I grabbed some potions of swiftness and I set off on my 5-minute long nether run. I am so looking forward to replacing this with an ice bridge. After finally getting to the warped forest near my wither skeleton farm, I went on my nether tree killing rampage. While here, I also collected every shroom light I saw because they could probably look good in a future build, maybe. While running around the forest, I found tons of endermen that were holding items. These guys are the reason why my wither skeleton farm isn't at max efficiency yet, because they don't freaking despawn. And honestly, I really don't want to have to spawn proof this biome too. I have flashbacks. Now that I had what I came for, I went to kill some wither boys because, I mean, honestly, why not? I ran all the way here, and once I spawn proof the warped forest, this farm will be god tier. But for now, it's just pretty good, I guess. While sitting here grinding the wither skeletons, I did end up getting 3 more skulls, so I guess this trip wasn't entirely a waste of time. And after spending another 5 minutes straight running all the way back to my nether portal, it ended up being day 445. On day 446, I set out with my elytra to a nearby forest to search for beehives, which I thought would be easy. See what I did there? I warned you about the bee puns. Anyways, the beehives were few and far between, and when I did find them, I struggled to get them into the nests. I learned that you could use campfires to solve that, but I didn't have any dark oak wood on me. Overall, I was pretty unlucky finding hives. That is, until day 449. On day 449, I hit the mother lode. I found a flower biome, and there were beehives full of bees everywhere. So I went around the biome capturing every bee I could find and saw side of their nests. While I was here, I may have also decimated a field of flowers to take home with me. I mean, it's not a big deal, right? While continuing to search around, I found this majestic looking ruined portal that had a tree in it and no god apple. And to be honest, I'm not even sure if god apples spawn in ruined portals, to be honest, but I'm sure you will all let me know in the comments, because you always do. On day 450, I began flying back home with all of my bees. However, mid-flight, I decided that while I was out, I would look for another jungle biome so I could get more jungle wood for the turtle enclosure and some cool tropical builds that I had in mind. While flying around, I found countless village after village after village, and I told myself I would not stop and steal all their hay. But I literally flew over like 6 villages in a row. So yeah, you could probably see how long that lasted. So I stopped at every other village along the way, and I started stealing their bells and all of their hay. So much for minimizing exploration until the 1.18 caves come out. Am I right? While exploring, I even stopped by an illager outpost, and I stole their cool banners and some dark oak for campfires, in case I found any more bees. And just look at this absolute pile of these boys. Control, Alt, Delete. Oh, and I even freed this iron golem like the good Samaritan that I definitely am. On day 451, I had finally found the jungle I was looking for, and this didn't take nearly as long as last time. So I got straight to work putting nature in its place, except a wandering trader decided to interrupt me. I checked who he was subscribed to, and I was not on the list, so I banned him from YouTube and life. Anyways, this time I was far more prepared before I left. I gathered over 4 stacks of jungle wood and 20 jungle saplings. I spent the rest of the night flying home, and I ended up with 12 new beehives full of bees, which totals 20, including the one I have in the item frame. On day 452, I gathered all the supplies for a honey farm, and I crafted a metric ton of glass bottles. Now that I was prepared, I grabbed the shulker and looked for a place to actually build the thing. I know I could put it in the end and they would never stop working because it was never nighttime, but I also barely ever go to the end, so overall it would be much less productive in the long run. So after looking around my base for a bit, I decided the perfect place for a bee farm would be the downstairs area of my farmhouse, so I began laying out the collection system, and let's just say I ran into a ton of issues because the farm I was using was going to be too tall to fit, and overall it was just a lot more time and effort than it ended up being worth. So instead I went with plan B, see what I did there, and I built it outside. So cue bee building montage. By the time I was done building the bare bones bee farm, it had already started working. I had already made some honey, and all the bees were busy writing the script to Bee Movie 2, The Beequel. That's pretty great, not gonna lie. The overall process of building this farm and then tearing it down and moving it and rebuilding it took all the way until day 453. Except the day wasn't over, so I wanted to build a nice bee hut around the farm. That is, until I noticed that I basically had 0 of any type of wood besides jungle. Ew. While lighting up the top of the bee farm, I realized that it was becoming night, so instead of smacking trees in the middle of a creeper minefield, I decided to just sleep instead. On day 454, I flew out to the nearby forest to continue my grudge against Minecraft nature. For the bee hut, I want to use regular and stripped oak along with maybe some spruce wood. While increasing my carbon footprint, I thought of a future farm that I definitely needed, an auto tree farm. You can make them pretty easily with TNT dupers, and since I have plenty of bone meal to keep growing the trees, they would be way way more efficient than doing what I'm doing now. Most of day 455 working on the surrounding building that covered all of the mess behind the farm. And it was looking okay. I kind of wanted to add a roof with an overhang, kind of like the one I did for my horse pen, but I was now realizing that I definitely should have built this further back from the path between the turtle farm and the bee farm. How unbelievable of me. Okay, fine, I'll stop. Just don't leave the video, please. I spent all of day 456 adding a roof to the bee farm and adding some extra touches to it, and it turned out way better than I had thought it would. I even put a staircase inside of it so that way I could use it to get up to the glass bottle system. On the next day, while I was waiting for the bee farm to produce enough honey, I decided that I would finish the paths around it so that way it would blend in more with the world better. That is, if my shovel wasn't almost broken. So before working around the bee farm, it was off to some more beautiful capitalism so I could mend up my shovel. During this beautiful session of capitalism, the only thing I had to trade was string because I keep forgetting to craft all of my bamboo into sticks. Or at least that's what I keep telling myself. Also, speaking of bamboo, I added a lever to the farm so it was no longer automated because it was generating so much bamboo that the chests were always full and it was literally lagging my game. I spent the rest of the day gardening around the bee barn, which is what I was going to call the new bee farm, trademark. And on day 457, it was finally finished, at least for now. I also added another custom tree, which I think turned out okay. I mean, I don't know, to be honest. Building custom trees is pretty difficult. Anyways, now that this was mostly done, I checked on the honey production and there was more than enough that I needed to make the gold farm. So I crafted all of the honey and I got 14 blocks of honey. On day 458, in preparation for my gold farm, I made a creative world and I began testing ways to break bedrock. I tried 2 different methods and after so many fails, I finally got it to work. However, just to be super careful, I'm going to bring enough materials to make another portal so I don't, get stuck on the roof forever and lose my world. So I went back to my world and I crafted a ton of TNT and everything else that I needed, and I was now prepared to screw up a lot. I mean, just look at this overkill shulker. So I went back to the nether and I dug up to a spot where I could see the highest point of bedrock and I ender pearled through. Now that I was up here, I marked the block I wanted to break and I set up my bedrock breaker. And just like that, I had done it. And you could probably tell, but I was pretty damn excited about it. This took way less tries than I was expecting, and I also realized that as I was doing it, both the trapdoor and the pistons, and even the lever, didn't get destroyed by the TNT, so I kind of didn't need to make a ton of them. But you know what? It's all good. I'll hoard them until another day when I finally need them. Also, a huge pro tip to mastering how to do this for yourself: when you're underneath the trapdoor and trying to place the piston, aim for the lighter purple spots like I did. It makes this way more efficient. On day 459, I chose a direction on a nether roof to run in, so that way I could find a nether waste biome to put my gold farm in. I ran in a straight line while placing torch breadcrumbs, so that way I could find my way home just in case. When finally finding the nether waste biome, I realized that I had forgot scaffolding. So I grabbed my elytra and I flew all the way back to the broken bedrock, and damn, I actually ended up going pretty far. After getting back to my house, I made an excessive amount of scaffolding totally on purpose and not by mistake because I don't make those. And now that I had all the supplies I needed, I went back to the nether and began building the gold farm. For this farm, I used Mysticats designed, and I learned that I didn't even need the honey blocks because they were an optional way to switch between an auto farm and me manually killing them. So I guess I got the bees for nothing. For now, that is. Anyways, I began by building the hopper looting platform. I set up a triple sorter that would sort rotten flesh, golden nuggets, and gold bars into chests and destroy the golden swords. You may be wondering why I need rotten flesh, and the answer is simple: cleric villagers. I can feed them rotten flesh for some more juicy emeralds. Now that my sorting system was ready, I built the Pit of Death, where I could watch all the zombie piglins fall to their doom. After this, I built the first magma platform for them to spawn on, and I built a pole in the middle of trapdoors, and I put turtle eggs inside every 3 blocks that will bait piglins to transform into their drops. After that, I filled in the remaining floors, and I added a large glass box to the top to increase pack spawns. And lastly, I made an AFK skybox at build limit, and just like that, my gold farm was officially complete. This whole process took absolutely forever. I finished this at the end of day 472. I also maybe finished this at about 4 a.m. in real life. I don't want to talk about it. On days 473 through 476, now that my farm was good to go, I decided to test this bad boy out. So I AFK'd in the sky chamber for 1 hour straight to see just how much loot I would get. Cue montage. After AFKing for a full hour, I flew back down to check on my loot, and I guess I forgot to spawn proof a couple of blocks. So there was an angry boy here, who then fell off the ledge. Oh well. I checked on my chests, and well, yeah, the sorter broke. I guess because one of the pieces of glass that I broke up top while finishing the platform fell into the sorter, it stopped it from working because I also used glass for the sorter. Oops. Anyways, after fixing the sorting system, I crafted all of my Wendy's spicy nuggets into gold bars, and in an hour, this farm produced 9.5 stacks of gold ingots, which is pretty good, not gonna lie. The cool thing about this farm is that if I wanted to in the future, I could also expand it or just add extra farms around it and spawn even more piglins and just produce absolute crazy stonks when it comes to gold. So after this, I packed all of my loot away in my shulker boxes and I flew back home, and I ended up getting back to the overworld the next day, and it was officially time to organize all of my crap before I can move on to the next project. And to put this into perspective, this is how much rotten flesh I had before, and this is how much I have now. I have almost 2 full chests of rotten flesh for just 1 hour of waiting. Just imagine all of the emeralds inside of this chest. Anyways, I spent the rest of this day cleaning out my shulkers. And I mean, just look at all these shulkers. I even still had the shulkers left over that were full of the ice I collected like 20 days ago. On day 478, I went over to my overflowing bamboo farm and I began converting all of the bamboo to sticks. And this process took absolutely forever. I actually gave up on this because I had already filled all of these shulkers and I still had tons of bamboo left. I was like, where is all this bamboo coming from? And then I realized that every single hopper minecart that was going on the tracks also had 9 additional stacks of bamboo, and they just kept dumping them back into the chests over and over again. I am so glad that I disabled the automatic harvesting because holy crap. So at the beginning of day 479, it was time for some beautiful capitalism. I gathered all of my tools and my elytras and I repaired them with the XP from all of this fine capitalism. After repairing my gear and tools and after finishing up the trades, I ended up with another stack into 1 emerald blocks. Now that my things were fixed, I didn't really have much else to do this day, so I went back to my turtle farm and I planted a huge tree that surprisingly ended up looking pretty nice. On day 480, I got the inspiration to really touch up my base some more because there were so many parts that were unfinished. So I started off by adding some wood pillars with redstone lamps and daylight sensors to the dock by my farmhouse. And surprisingly, this made it look 10 times better. While doing this, I also got so much more inspiration. So I spent the night tearing down the kind of overkill emerald and blackstone fence around the water, and I replaced it with a small dock border. After filling this in, I added some wood supports with redstone lamps and daylight sensors, and this ended up looking crazy good. I was becoming so much more happy with this area in comparison to what it was before. After finishing the dock all the way to where the creeper and spider farm was, I spent the next 2 days working on the pathing around my horse barn and the beacon fountain. And honestly, I am getting so good at this natural look stuff. I really hope you all like seeing this kind of unique building in the series because, I mean, just look at how cozy this is. Although the fountain kind of stands out a lot more now. I mean, I don't know what to do with the fountain, to be honest. On day 484, while my inspiration was still flowing, I went down to my X lava pool to get a ton of obsidian for my next mini project. And yes, I could go to the end, but I don't feel like setting up a beacon there, and my current beacon's already covering this area, so this process was much faster. Anyways, this took most of the day, and I settled with about 2 stacks of obsidian for now. On day 485, I gathered the rest of the resources that I needed for the mini project, and I'm guessing you probably know exactly what this is going to be by now, based on the thumbnail. A nether portal sword shrine. And yes, this isn't entirely original, as I did use some designs that I saw online as references, but mine was going to be much different. So now that I had the supplies, I began building the frame for the portal sword. And yes, cue building montage.
Now let me see you go off like a bomb.
And of course, to show off after finishing the basic outline of the sword, I had to do an MLG water bucket on the way down. After this, I made some soulfire torches and I crafted them into soulfire lanterns, which I haven't really used until now. Anyways, after adding the lights to the sword portal frame, it was looking pretty 10 out of 10. Plus now, hopefully no creepers would spawn up there and destroy all of my hard work by dive bombing me. This process took until the end of day 488. On day 489, while working out the design for the base around the portal, I saw one of the rarest spawns in all of Minecraft in the distance. It was a full diamond armor skeleton. I panicked because I needed a name tag, but I knew if I ran back to my base, it would probably despawn before this. So I began running towards it, and then just like it came, it despawned before my eyes. I didn't know how long it had been spawned in out there, but the pain I now felt was immeasurable. I needed that guy, and now, just like my dad, he was gone to get milk and will never come back. Anyways, with that disappointment looming over me, I finished building the platform for the portal. I added some bonfires and some cool lamps to each side to really add the aesthetic I was going for. This project took me until day 493 because I was very indecisive while building. On day 494, I went down to my mine and I broke the old nether portal so I could finally link the new one. After that, I went back up to my new beautiful portal with a flint and steel and I lit it. It all led up to this moment. I went through the portal and it worked. It didn't glitch out and go to another portal or make some random new portal miles away, so I'm lucky. I mean, you got to be super careful because Minecraft portals are an enigma. So now that I was in the nether, I went back through the portal to see if it would take me back out at the exact spot, and it linked up perfectly to the overworld. Almost 500 days later, and I finally no longer have to go 50 levels down on a ladder just to go to the nether every time. Anyways, now that this is done, let's just sit back and take a look at it in all of its glory. It's so pretty. It is beautiful. Now that my nether portal was done, I spent the rest of the night adding some more paths and nature around the entrance because it really makes the world feel a lot more comfortable, you know? I even decided to grab 3 more stacks of prismarine and I went around the ocean lighting up the floor some more so that way my base would just look so much better at night. Like prismarine at the bottom of your ocean floor makes or breaks an ocean build. I'm just saying. It is so pretty. And this place looks gorgeous with shaders. That is, if I could get more than 30 FPS with shaders, even after upgrading my PC. On day 495, I wanted to update my long ignored bridge that connected to my iron farm and my creeper farms, and I didn't have enough wood to do it. So it was back to some good old fashioned deforestation. But don't worry, this time I'm growing all of the trees that I then chopped down, which means I guess in a way I was now the dad who left to get milk and didn't come back. Anyways, now that I had forsaken my tree children, I began spacing out wood supports for the bridge. I know, it's crazy, right? Absolutely none of my buildings have had supports throughout the entire 500 days, except for my house. So now that I had the support spaced out, I spent the rest of the day and most of day 496 finishing the underneath area of the bridge, and it really helps close off my little bay area that I have going on here. This place is looking gorgeous. It's starting to look kind of like a village, which is not what I was going for, but I really like the aesthetic. I spent days 497 through 498 building the roof to the bridge out of spruce wood stairs and stone brick. After running out of stone, I went back down to my mine and I struck some diamonds while mining stone. I did say in the beginning of this video that these would be a lucky 100 days, I think. I actually don't remember at this point. Anyways, I had found 8 diamond ore, which is pretty pog. Now that I had my stone and some free diamondes, I spent the rest of the night finishing the roof of the bridge, and this thing really brings together the whole area and it makes it super cozy to look at. I mean, just look at it from the ocean view. Plus, there are no longer any torches when walking across it because I replaced them all with classy hanging lanterns. On day 499, now that the bridge was looking nice, it was finally time to fix up the iron farm area since, I mean, let's be honest, I kind of just let it sit here for a long AF time. So I finished the porch area that I could use to watch the iron golem suffer. I mean, come on, what else did you expect me to use this for? I also finished the staircase so I could properly close in the chest room, and I blocked off that unsightly redstone sorter. Things were looking good in the kingdom of PainDomination. On day 500, I was kind of just walking around admiring the work that I had accomplished for these 100 days. And then something caught my eye on the very top of the creeper farm. There was a freaking wandering trader up there. So I got out my elytra and I flew up there to check his trades. And big surprise, this man had nothing. I mean, I kind of already have everything anyways, so I concocted a huge, massive 5-head idea. So I slowly plunged him to his death on my newly built bridge, and now I had 2 of his friends that weren't mad at me. So I crafted 2 boats and I plopped them down and pushed them both into them. And one by one, I went skydiving with them and I parked them next to my cow, Big Mac. After this, I got 3 name tags and I named Big Mac, and I named the 2 new members of the family Rem and Rom because, I mean, we reference. If only I could dye these 2 pink and blue, that would be absolutely perfect. Let me know in the comments which anime these 2 are from. Also, I just have to point this out. While we're talking about Rem and Rom, Rem is the ultimate waifu, and I will fight you over it. And just like that, I had survived 500 days in hardcore Minecraft. And now that I have you at the end of the video, I wanted to say a couple things. First off, I wanted to thank you all so much from the bottom of my heart for all of the crazy support that you have been giving me. It really does mean so much to me. Like, yes, I do make money from YouTube as my full-time job now, and I am super thankful for that, but it is much more than that. I grew up with a lot of mental health issues, and watching content from genuine creators over the years has really helped me out a ton. I really hope that in some way my content can be there for all of you when you are having a hard day or life just doesn't go your way. And I also hope that you can take that positivity and pay it forward, because you never know what somebody is going through. I really want to use the size of my content to continue growing as a person and help people in the future. So once again, I wanted to say thank you. Also, I of course wanted to give a huge shout out to my channel members for going the extra mile in helping me with what I do. I did also want to announce that in the future, I'm actually thinking about switching from channel members to Patreon, because it's much more personal for you, and I can actually offer things like future maps that I make or discount codes for future merch. Anyways, this has been PainDomination, and I will see you all in the next video, which will hopefully be pretty soon. Wink.